All right, welcome back to the Central Valley Buzz, everybody. I'm your host, Chuck Leonard. Sitting here with me now from 21st Century Faith, my good friend, Michael Bogart. How's it going,
Hey,
bud?
Chuck, good to see you.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Well, things are going pretty good. You know, I often run into people out and about that say, they know Michael Bogart.
Well, you know, I guess maybe I do have a few friends in the world, huh?
Well, a lot of people say they've gone to your church.
Yeah.
A lot of people say they've taken your classes.
Yeah, yep, that's right.
But not a lot of people are telling me they're listening to your disc. So I want to tell you guys out there, the 45-minute Bible.
Yes.
The Understanding Islam.
Right.
What's some of the other ones?
I know Mormonism, I know Jehovah's Witness, I know the New Age. Yeah, those are the ones people always ask about.
Okay. I ask you guys to check it out on mindcuisine.com. All these different ones. They're really, really interesting.
They really are. I'd like to think that they are anyway, yeah.
We had a conversation last week about why people join religious sects.
Right.
You know,
Well, last week we talked about, you know, the fact that religious sects claim truth. Well, all religions claim some sort of inside track to truth. And this week I wanted to kind of follow up with that because so many religious groups, people join them because of dynamic leadership. I mean,
Right.
you think about, obviously the first one that pops to mind.
Jim Jones.
Well, Jim Jones
Right.
is a good example of what I call toxic religious leadership.
What was the other? Koresh.
David Koresh and the Branch Davidians, you know, those are good example of leadership that's able to convince people to do horrible things.
Charles Manson. Oh yeah. Right?
Yeah, I guess he was sort of a religious leader. He certainly was one of those magnetic people that could
Well,
convince.
didn't he say he was the Messiah?
I think he did.
Right.
He had all sorts of delusions about stuff like that, yeah. But then, of course, you have your excellent leadership as well, you know, and so I don't know that leadership itself is a bad thing. But my point, I think, that I'm making today is that people are very much looking for some kind of religious figure that will show them the way forward in their lives. And you've got maybe, like, at least in my book, you've got your Mother Teresa's and your Billy Grahams on the one hand that are what I call benevolent leadership, that do help people. And
What about Jimmy Swaggart?
well, you know, he's problematic.
He plays both sides.
It seems like he thought he was above certain things, apparently. But anyway, but you've got your benevolent ones, you've got your toxic ones, and you've got your people in the middle.
Jim Baker.
Well, and Jimmy Baker, you know, it seems like he was really trying to get rich all the time, don't you think?
Well, yeah, their doghouse had an air conditioning unit on it. I mean, Tammy Faye had to spend tons of money on makeup.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure she did. Of course, she's gone now.
Did Tammy Faye die?
I believe she did, yes. Yeah,
Makeup,
she did.
toxic makeup.
But leadership is something that people are looking for. And the reason why, you know, I have this ministry called 21st Century Faith is that I don't know that human nature is ever going to change. And people are always going to look for those folks that will help them succeed in life and maybe connect with God or the supernatural or whatever.
And at different times of their lives, right?
Absolutely.
At different times, people tend to sway towards the religion.
That's right. Just to give you an example of that, I pastored in Lemoore, California for 18 years. I was the pastor of Grace Baptist Church down there. Of course, it's a military community. So time after time we saw this, that, you know, these young people would join the Navy, sow their wild oats for a few years, get married, have children, and the kids would turn about 4 or 5 and start asking very profound religious questions. You know, small children can ask some pretty deep questions, and so mom and dad would come back to church.
Do they ask these questions because their parents aren't going to church, or do they ask these questions because their parents are going to church?
Well, all we saw was that a lot of these young couples would come back to church because the kids prompted some kind of, oh my goodness, we need to get these kids in church, or we need to answer some of these questions. I think mainly in that case it was because the kids had friends that were in church, they asked spiritual questions, and mom and dad said, oh my goodness, we've kind of neglected that. And so you're right. There are those times in people's lives when they're more open to joining groups. And of course, you know, we tried to work with those folks, and the Navy'd bring them, and then they'd take them away. And
well, I guess I'm talking more about when people are having hardships in their life.
Certainly.
And, you know, and they haven't leaned towards talking to God and asking God for His help, and then all of a sudden, boom, something tragic happens, and they well, gosh, this is the time I need to talk to him.
Right. Well, they lose a job, they have a health problem, they lose a loved one, they go through some sort of emotional trauma.
They get thrown in the can.
Yeah. Well, you know, well, and that's true. That's why prison and jail chaplain ministries are very successful, because that's a time when a lot of people get shaken up enough to start asking those kinds of questions. So, and leadership is essential, that it be a good, benevolent kind of leadership in those times. Toxic leadership can do enormous damage, not just to the people affected, but to the whole community. And we've seen that. I mean, Jim Jones is a perfect example of that, and many others as well.
Well, people like to follow somebody that's a good leader.
That's right.
Right, and sometimes people, they pick religion, and they're not doing it for the right reasons.
Well, a lot of times people are in it for what they can get out of it. I mean, I saw that as a pastor too, that people will come to church, they'll get some particular need met, and then you never see them again. And that's just part of the way that works. But there are an awful lot of people who will be very faithful, will be very productive and contributing to the good of the whole organization once they get involved and get some of their basic needs met. So I mean, it kind of works both ways.
So what are you angling here? What are you doing? Are you trying to get more people to go to church right now?
Well, I always think that's a good idea, providing that the church is a good church. But I think what my point is I'm trying.
How do you know what's a good church and what's a bad church?
You can ask me afterwards.
Okay. No,
okay. But in my book, okay, I'll give you my definition. It's a church that teaches the Bible in a balanced and faithful way, and that treats people as valuable in themselves and not just as resources. In other words, they care about the people that are given to them. And that's, in my book, and of course, obviously as a Christian, I hope that they put Jesus at the very center. But other than that, I mean, that's my basic definition. And there's a lot of those churches around, and there's some that maybe aren't. So, but that's as Michael Bogart's opinion. So.
Awesome. Hey, people can see a lot of your opinion by going to mindcuisine.com.
That's right.
What do these DVDs run?
I usually have a special going at one point or another for about $10 a piece. Mm-hmm. Normally, I think they're about $14.95 for the regular price. But for $10 for a 35 to 45 minute video that gives you the basics on those subjects, and plus from a fairly non-biased point of view, because I try to remove my bias as much as possible, I don't see how you can go wrong.
I'll tell you what. Let's throw a special out on the 45-minute Bible right now.
$10.
Why don't you do that?
$10 between now and next Wednesday, and you order it from mindcuisine.com for $10. You got it.
I think that's a great deal and a great way to expose the kids, right?
Absolutely.
And here's the thing: when you can answer the questions that the kids are answering, it's coming from mom and dad.
That carries a lot of weight.
There,
absolutely.
Right? Okay, Michael Bogart.
Hey, good to talk
Always
to you.
Always good to see you, buddy. Michael Bogart here every Wednesday with me. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Do you have a Mac computer? Does it have that spinning rainbow wheel? Does it drive you nuts? I got one right here, and I got Doug, the Mac guy here. He's going to take a look at it right here on the air. Stick around.